In today's video, I'm going to give you some tips on how you can learn phrasal verbs, hopefully without going crazy. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Karen, and on my channel, I help people learn English. Now, I actually recorded this video earlier today outside, but unfortunately in that video, you can't hear me very well. So I'm back in my study and I'm going to record this video again. But unfortunately, the background isn't as nice as the one in my earlier video, but I'm still going to be talking about the same thing, phrasal verbs, so you're still going to get the same information. I try not to use phrasal verbs in my videos here because I want to make sure that you understand what I'm saying in my videos, and I don't want to confuse you by using phrasal verbs. But today, because we're talking about phrasal verbs in the video today, I will be using them throughout this video. So you will hear many different phrasal verbs today. And all the phrasal verbs that I use in today's video are very common. So this video is a great place to learn some common phrasal verbs that are used in English. Firstly, what is a phrasal verb? A phrasal verb is a phrase that usually has 2 or 3 words. It starts with a verb and has 1 or 2 words after it. And the meaning of the whole phrase is usually different from the meaning of the different parts of the phrase. So a few examples: come up, hang on, take off, get through. Now there are thousands of phrasal verbs, and I think that's one of the reasons why they're so hard to learn, simply because there are so many of them. And I think the second reason that they're so hard to learn is because one phrasal verb can have many different meanings. For example, the phrasal verb come up probably has about 10 different meanings. So they're very hard to learn, but you also can't ignore them because native English speakers use them all the time. For example, watch any of my earlier vlogs, and I'll put a link somewhere in this video and also down in the description below. Watch any of my earlier vlogs and you will hear me use phrasal verbs throughout the entire video. They're just very common and they're used all the time. So if you want to better understand native English speakers, and also if you want your own English to sound more natural and not sound like a textbook, then you just have to learn them. So today, I'd like to give you some tips on how you can learn phrasal verbs, hopefully without going crazy. My first tip for you today is to not learn them by verb. What I mean by this is don't take a verb, for example, take, and then learn every single phrasal verb that uses the word take. Take up, take down, take in, take out, take over, take away. There are just too many of them and they all sound very similar. Should I use take up or take on? You'll confuse yourself, and in the end you may actually give up and say, phrasal verbs are just too difficult, I don't want to learn them anymore. And I don't want you to say that. So if we don't learn them by verb, then how can we learn them? Well, in today's video, I'm going to give you a few different ideas and I'd like you to try them out. See which ones you like, which ones suit your personality and your learning style. So my second tip for you today is to just learn a few at a time, maybe 5 or 6 phrasal verbs in one day, and not to learn all the meanings of each of those phrasal verbs. Don't learn all 10 meanings of come up. So maybe learn 1 or 2 meanings of each of these phrasal verbs. And if you're busy, maybe just learn 1 meaning of each of these phrasal verbs. And if you're really busy, maybe just learn 1 or 2 phrasal verbs, because 1 phrasal verb is still better than none. My third tip for you today is to learn them by the second word. Let's take the example up. Again, there are many phrasal verbs that use the word up. So what you can do is break them down into even smaller groups. Some phrasal verbs have the meaning of starting something. For example, take up. One meaning of take up is to start doing something new. I took up a new sport earlier this year. Another example is to pick up. One meaning of pick up is to learn something accidentally. I picked up some bad habits from her while we were living together. And some phrasal verbs have the meaning of improving or increasing something. So the phrasal verb pick up has the meaning, another meaning of to increase or to improve. The wind has now picked up, so my hair is now all messy. And another example, turn up. One meaning of turn up is to increase the sound or power. Can you please turn the TV up? I can't hear it. And then some phrasal verbs have the meaning of ending something. Hang up. One meaning of hang up is to end a phone call. He was starting to get very angry, so I hung up on him. And another example, wind up. One meaning of wind up is to end a meeting or conversation. Let's wind this up and continue this discussion in our next meeting. My fourth tip today is to learn them by subject. For example, learning. Maybe you're studying at school or university, or maybe you're just studying English. You're watching this video, so you're probably studying English. So what you can do is try and use phrasal verbs to describe what happened at university or school today. Or if you're studying English, maybe describe what happened today when you studied English. A few examples. I haven't been studying lately. I'm falling behind this semester. I need to catch up. Otherwise, I'm going to fall even further behind. Another example, I need to hand this assignment in on Monday, so I can't go out this weekend. And one last example about learning English. Oh, I don't know this word. Let me look it up in the dictionary. So you can do this with any topic that you're interested in. You might like watching TV or playing sport or reading books or talking about your cat or dog or family. So try and use phrasal verbs when you're talking about a topic that you're interested in. And the fifth tip that I have for you today is to learn them as you come across them in real life. Like I said earlier, native English speakers use phrasal verbs all the time. So you will hear them on TV, in the movies, and in real life. So listen out for them, and if you can, write them down so you can study them later and hopefully use them yourself at a later time. And my sixth and final tip for you today is to try and use phrasal verbs to talk about your daily life. So to finish off today's video, I'm going to leave you with a very long example using a lot of different phrasal verbs. I'd like you to try and do something similar, to talk about your day, to talk about what you're doing right now, what you did yesterday, what you're going to do tomorrow. And by doing it this way, you also practice your verb tenses. And phrasal verbs always have a verb in them and they need to be in the correct tense. So this would be good practice for that too. So I will leave you here with the very long example. Thank you for watching today's video. Keep practicing, stay safe out there, and I shall see you next time. Bye. A typical day for me. I get up at 8 o'clock in the morning. I go into the kitchen and make myself some breakfast. I don't have to turn on the light because there is usually a lot of sunlight already at that time. I take out the milk from the fridge for my coffee and cereal. After breakfast, I brush my teeth, take off my pajamas, and put on some clothes for work. I also put on some makeup and brush my hair. Before I go to work, I make sure that everything is switched off in the house. When I get to work, I sit down at my desk and write down everything that I need to do that day. And then I try and get through everything on my list. I go to the gym maybe 2 or 3 times a week. I like to work out at lunch because it breaks up my work day. I try and warm up before I start and warm down afterwards so that I don't get injured when I'm exercising at the gym. And then after work, on my way home, I pop into the supermarket to buy some food for dinner. While I eat dinner, I try and catch up on some news to find out what happened in the world today. And then afterwards, I might watch some TV to wind down a little bit before going to bed.